Welcome to episode 41 of Walleye Chronicles. On this episode, we'll hear from Josh Sheldon. He is one of the owner and operators of eTournaments Fishing. He's also a tournament angler that resides in Colorado, so we get to talk some awesome tactics of fishing for walleyes up in the elevation. As always, enjoy. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Walleye Chronicles, where I bring you off the street, we jump on Skype, or you come in studio, and we have a conversation about fishing. Today, I have a very special guest, somebody you guys don't know much about yet, but I think you're going to know in our area pretty soon. I have Josh Sheldon. He is from eTournaments. He also directs tournaments. He's from Colorado. They do walleye fishing out there, too. It's kind of weird, but we're going to talk about it today. And they also have a podcast, All Eyes on Fishing. So, Josh, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you all?
Wonderful. So I got a lot to get into with you because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. But right off the bat, tell me a little about your fishing history.
Well, I grew up in Colorado. I'm a Colorado native, which is pretty rare. I grew up in southern Colorado in a town called Pueblo. And we had a little reservoir next to us, which is probably one of our biggest fisheries in the state of Colorado. And I grew up as a kid. My family is good old Midwestern, Saginaw, Michigan family. And my family moved out in the 70s to Colorado, and we went from there to about 73, 74. And I was born a couple years later, and I grew up walleye fishing with my dad down at the reservoir and figured out Colorado does have walleyes, and we have a great walleye fishery. And we just kept, did that and got into my 20s and I got into my teens, started to fish from a flow tube instead of shore. We didn't have a boat or anything like that, and still caught a ton of walleyes that way. And when I finally got my first job, my dream was always to get a walleye boat, and bought a walleye boat and went from there. And one of my first jobs out of college was at a sheriff's office in Colorado, and my captain was a professional fisherman on the RCL and PWT by the name of Gary Darling.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that, and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
And Gary Darling was friends with a guy named Dan Swanson, who ended up being my tournament partner later, who also was a PWT RCL pro. And those guys kind of started to take me under their wing a little bit and got me interested in tournament fishing about 1999, 2000, and fished the local Colorado Walleye Trail. It's called Colorado Walleye Association. It was a nonprofit association, and started tournament fishing then and went from there, and I've been hooked ever since. And that turned into meeting two guys named Brad Qualley and Mitch Peterson, and both of them a couple of Midwestern guys, and out here living in Colorado. And one day, sitting around drinking a couple of beers in a snowy day, we said, hey, let's start a podcast. we started All Eyes on Fishing on an iPhone sitting in Brad's living room, and kind of went from there. And about 5 years ago, the Colorado Walleye Association folded, and we started the Colorado Walleye Trail, and that is what we run today. And a couple of years ago, we expanded it to the Western Walleye Series, which is a secondary one-day shootout series that encompasses Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. So through running those circuits and being involved in tournament fishing for so long, and seeing all the different types of tournament fishing there is, from live weigh-ins to, texting our photos in, to walking up to a trailer at the end of the tournament and showing them your phone, we decided that we like the CPRV format, and we're gonna go ahead and stick with that. And we started eTournament Fishing as a result. So nothing out there quite met our needs, and as directors and tournament guys, we said, all right, let's do this. And so that's what led to that, and here we are.
Awesome. So before we get into all the eTournaments, I have one quick question. What was that first dream boat that you bought?
It was it's awesome. It was an aluminum Ranger, 17 and a half foot Ranger Cherokee. with a
Nice.
115 Merc and a 99 kicker, and it was my dream. It was my absolute dream, man. I still, I'm telling you, some of my best tournament days were in that boat. So, I grew up fairly poor, and having a float tube was a big deal for me. And I didn't even have fins to kick. I used to kick with just my feet. You want to talk about slow? And having a boat was always a dream. And so that first boat, man, nothing like it. It was great.
That's awesome. The first boat you get is always, it's the freedom. It's yours. It's to do what you want with. It's always, it's a super awesome feeling. Even if it's a used boat for some people that can't afford going new or whatever, just picking something up, it just makes it just changes your life, I think.
It was absolutely life changing. And to this day, I mean, I just lots of great memories from that boat.
Awesome. So let's get into eTournaments. So for people that don't know, eTournaments is a catch picture release video app on your phone that you use to basically fish a tournament.
Correct. Yes.
So what makes so over here by us, we have another one that's pretty prevalent. I believe that you guys are going to come strong on the scene here pretty quick to us, but now that people know about it, what makes your app different than what we're currently using over here in Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota?
Well, we've got quite a few differences. We looked at all the apps when we originally started the walleye trail in Colorado, and none of them really met what we wanted. We had concerns about how much authority the directors had over the fishermen, how much information they could see, because a lot of circuits, like one tournament they're the director, and the next tournament they're the participant, and they could be at the same lake. So we did a lot of talking to tournament fishermen around the country, different types, kayaks, boats, all the tournaments we'd been involved in. And the big thing is like, look, these directors, they take our info and they use it in next week's tournament. And they're on our spots, and or stuff like that. So our big thing is we wanted to make sure we came up with a tournament app that catered to tournament anglers. That wasn't somebody who was just an engineer or a tech guy came up with a fishing app to record your catches. It was there because of our experience, and we wanted to cater to big circuits, NWT, AIM, and have the little guy have it be easy enough that these little circuits, charity events, high school events could use it. So the difference is that we started to come up with, we have a active leaderboard that is completely anonymous. Everybody that enters the tournament is issued a pin, and your information is up there by your pin, so you don't get tailpiped. So you don't have people that come up and follow you to your spots, right? That was one of the major things. We wanted to make sure that the app was functioning offline and online. So if you are offline and you don't have cell service, our app will pick everything up, and it'll be just as smooth, just as fast as if you were online. And the second you hit online, everything will go up to the server we use, and it will come over to the tournament director to be looked at. So no issues with losing fish in any way because you don't have service. And as a double check to our system, everything is stored on your phone locally. So if you were to have an issue, some network outage or whatever, you could still run your tournament, and they could bring in their phones, show you their catches as a final option if that were the case, and a director can enter your information into the app and still use the app to manage the tournament. So we wanted to make sure that no matter what went down out there, because we've seen it all, that this would be an app that would be able to push through and give the tournament directors peace of mind, and the anglers. Nobody wants to be scared they're going to lose a fish. And so we did that. We added the video portion of it, and then we took it a step further and used a little bit of our backgrounds, and we added a geofence. So you can put up a geofence and set boundaries for your tournament. And if a team exits the geo area, so let's say you only can fish Green Bay and you can only do Wisconsin waters. Well, if they go up and they sneak up into Michigan waters and they try to put in a fish, right, or Canada, which has happened recently, then all of a sudden it's going to alert the tournament director that there was a fish that was submitted outside of boundaries, and tournament director can follow up and say, hey, what's the deal with this fish? So
picture you take when you upload a fish, it GPS where you're at that moment?
It does, and that's the part where we wanted to be sure we would have that information, but that information is hidden, so tournament directors couldn't use it for future use, or other anglers couldn't see it for future use in other events or an event next year or something like that. So every picture that is taken, there's no need for an indicator, right? There's no need for a special indicator or identifiable mark in the picture. Everything is time and date stamped on the picture, so you know when it was taken, the date. The location is on there as well, but it's hidden and can be accessed through a request to us for if somebody wants to, say, hey, listen, I think this person caught it out of bounds, or this person caught it after time. If there was some sort of rebuttal or some sort of need for it, a request to us, we'll gain that information and we'll provide it upon request.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. We thought, we wanted to make sure that all that information was there, that it was there to provide peace of mind. It was there to provide an anti-cheating avenue for us, and we wanted it there so people could use it for, all the stuff information that's there is downloadable, and we are able to provide all that information to all tournament directors or anybody who uses the app to DNR. And so we are able to allow DNR to have basically a Creo census off of your tournament that is no extra work to the director.
Wow. And I believe that you guys will direct too, so everybody can fish a tournament. So if you wanted
Correct.
your local derby, if the guys wanted to fish, y'all could fish and you could sub it out and you guys take care of that?
Absolutely. We are currently the tournament directors for Bass Pro's IFA series down in Florida, and that's the Inshore Fishermen's Association. And we are the directors for that. So if a group like Nebraska Walleye Trail has us direct some of their tournaments, if the directors themselves want to compete and there's any sort of conflict of interest, the app is designed so from our living room in Colorado, we could it's crazy, right? We can run and manage entire tournaments from our living room. We encourage there be an on-site contact just in case, but for the most part, we can do everything through that.
Wow. Is it difficult to do? What kind of entails when I take my picture of my fish and my release video and I let it go? What happens? What do you guys do in the back end of that? What happens in the back end of that?
So we watch the app and we check the app continuously, and we see if there's any sort of, all the pictures that come up, we get notified that the pictures are up, right? And that there's fish pending. And so I see all that your fish are pending and everybody else's. All we do is we go in there and we check the measurement photo, right? So the way the app is designed, there are ribbons across the screen. I hit on your fish. It gives me all your information is associated or is put with the picture in kind of a virtual live well type setting, right? And we hit the fish or the ribbon. It brings up the fish. It brings up the picture. It brings up the release video, and then there is a button that helps us get that we confirm.
Yep.
We also are at that time, we can write a message to the angler to let them know if there's any issues with their submission. So Matt, if you were to send me a fish, we're fishing a tournament, I'm the director, you send me a fish and I look at your picture and I said, Matt, that fish is real close to not touching on the end, right? Like I can't quite tell, but it's real close. So what I can do is I'll watch it. I can confirm it. We do 1/4-inch roundups as a personal, as a Colorado Walleye Trail deal, and I can send you a message that says, "Hey, man, great fish. Your entry is the fish isn't touching quite as clearly as we would like it. Please remember to push that fish all the way up against the end of the board so you don't get penalized."
I gotcha.
I can then send it to you, and you will see. It'll notify you with a square around your fish, and it will tell you, hey, man, there's a message waiting from the director. And then you can say, oh, we got to make sure we do a better job or a better camera angle. Or, hey, your release video isn't quite as clear as it needs to be. Can you make sure you get that fish in there as he swims off?
That's crazy that you guys can talk back to the people.
Yeah, and we made it one way. So there, you don't want to get into an argument with the guys that are fishing the tournament as a director, right? I mean, you just
going back and forth like crazy.
Absolutely, right? And so you want to be able to just give the message, get the information out there, and if there's an issue, they can call you. So we figured, you know what, you use your cellular plan to do that, and we'll make sure that we can notify you. And it works great. I mean, we have had some, we run all of our tournaments through it, and it is a very smooth, easy process to where, like I said, I mean, we ran one of our Western Walleye series. The last one was at Lake McConaughey this year at the end of October. And we ran it all from Colorado. The entire event was remote. And it was great. I mean, we had a great time. We had, not a huge field, but 20 plus teams, and a good payout for that many teams, and had a great tournament. I mean, ran it through no problem. Everybody's fish were there and accounted for. And, within an hour before as everyone's driving home, we have all the results posted, and everybody knows where they came in.
That's crazy because, I mean, out there by you guys cannot have great cell signal. I mean, I noticed with the local app the app that we're using currently now, iPhones have an issue uploading to them for some reason, don't know why. And we're in a fairly metro area, and you guys are in no man's land out there and seem to be having zero problems with that kind of stuff. But is that because you guys have the ability to hold it until you get to an area, then uploads kind of thing?
I think it's a little bit of everything. This is the greatest part about us, and how that what kind of sets us apart from the other apps is, we have our developers are here. Anthony Lopez, who is our tech genius, our guy with all the history of the tech industry. Anthony has the developers, and we have two that we pay to do nothing but fix things for us. So it really is. It's a constant struggle. Like you said, iPhones in your area are having an issue due to the uploads. Well, we are currently running a tournament in Canada, and we too discovered that there was a little bit of an issue with the new iPhone release. Within 24 hours, we had it figured out and fixed, and we're able to have Canada up and going. And so if there are any issues, we're able to jump on it right away, and we're able to take it and fix it and get it out. And that direct contact and that ability for us to be able to do that, either as directors for you, or as you as a director getting a hold of us saying, hey, listen, we're having an issue with slow upload or something, we're able to address all of those issues. So the fact that you have the offline mode, things like Starlink are amazing. Yeah. Starlink is such a great tool for all of these, Montana, all those real rugged areas that still exist in this country where they have great walleye fishing. And for us, I mean, so hot spots are amazing. That app will hold it out on the boat for you all day. If you're out on the Great Lakes, you don't have service, you come into whatever boat ramp y'all are using. The second you roll in and you hit that service, all of your pictures will upload, and we're constantly working on that upload speed, constantly.
Awesome. So this isn't putting something together. This isn't free, obviously. So how do the anglers pay for it? How does the tournament directors pay for it? How does that go down?
So it's so funny. That's the hardest part of any business, right? I mean, you want to make it affordable, but you have to pay yourself back for the investment, and to this is a passion and almost an obsession for us. So we have come up with a subscription system that we think is the best, because the goal is that for everybody to use it. So we want, if you fish Michigan Walleye Trail and AIM and NWT, and you fish, those are your three circuits, right? And you kind of bounce around between those three circuits. We want to be able to have you have the ability to use those and not have it be overwhelming as far as everybody has to bump up their cost of entry to cover the cost of the app. So we go to a subscription-based system where it's $4.99 a month, and you can use it as many times in a month as you can. So if you have 14 tournaments that month, all 14 tournaments are covered under that $4.99, as long as that group, is a user of the app.
Yep.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows, along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that, and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
And then if you want to use it for the season, because you all are some stellar ice fishermen back there, and all the ice contests are amazing, right? So, it's $49.90 for a year, and that means you get 2 months for free. So if you do the app and you do an annual subscription, you can use the app every day of the year, 365 times, and it's still $49.90.
Wow.
So, so we felt that was the best way to get the most value, to get the most people in the app, to show you just how great it is, right? All those functions. We've come out with a chat feature on the app to where everybody that's entered in a tournament is also entered into a chat room, and everybody has a profile, and you talk to your co-anglers. You can talk to other anglers in the tournament. You can talk to people, to your tournament directors. Information can be passed about inclement weather, bad conditions as far as the boat ramp may be bad for some reason, and we're going to use a different location. All of that can be passed through the app, and the chat feature, is similar to like a Facebook or something like that, where it's back and forth, and you can share photos, all sorts of things. And so that is also part of this app to help you organize your event and to help anglers, as you know, right, being an NWT guy. Hey man, I'm your partner for Green Bay. I need to know you.
Right. So it's just $4.99. Is there like a percentage off the payout? Is any of that stuff? Did the tournament have to pay as well?
No. So directors get to use the app for free. So we don't charge directors. If you're going to run your tournament and you're going to bring people into the app, we're going to give it to you for free. So we have made that commitment to the directors. If you want to try it out, it's free. Right? There's no issues with you paying for it. We want you to use the app. We want your people in the app. So that is our commitment to the directors. Being directors, it's important, right? You don't want to pay for something and figure out you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the best way that we figured for them to be able to use it and get it out there. And the app is not just a tool that catches the photographs of the fish and the release video. The app can be used if you want to do a live weigh-in. If you are like those boys on Lake Erie, right? They love to bring in those big old monsters and show. But here's the issue: you have 2 or 3 places where those fish come in. Or let's say you're running an event that goes for a week, and they can go to 4 different places, 4 different bait stores to weigh. The app can be used with the director entry as a tool to be able to organize, provide you that active leaderboard that can be displayed on your webpage. And you can come up with director entries, and you can weigh them in live. The Ultimate Walleye Derby and the Ultimate Salmon Derby in Michigan, this is what they do. They use the app to take a photo of the fish so they can confirm the date and time and that the fish was caught within the boundaries of the tournament. They bring in the fish, they weigh it. The director or the person at the bait store enters the fish into the app, and it keeps an active live leaderboard. And organizes everybody's weight, so if it's a multi-fish tournament, it organizes your weight and it tells you who's the winner. So it can be used as an organizational tool. If you want to do a live weigh-in, do a live weigh-in. There's a live weigh-in entry part into the app where if you do weigh-in boats, right? If you do a boat where people come up and you measure their fish, you do the app does length to weight conversion. So, and if you want a different length to weight conversion than what's in the app, you give us your length to weight conversion and we'll put it in the app for you, and leave it in there to select from, and anybody in the country can use it, right? So we did that because we needed length to weight. We all know 2 15-inch walleyes don't weigh as much as a 30-inch walleye, and it should be the same if you're going by inches. So that is also what has set us apart initially when we looked at all these apps, is everybody was doing length, and we said, no, we need length to weight. But if you do a weigh boat where you do, you bring in your fish in a live well and they measure it out, and then they do length to weight on their sheet, right? They write it down or do whatever. Well, now the app will do all that for you. If you really want that weigh boat and you want them to bring it into that weigh boat, do the weigh boat, and either the co-angler sitting on the boat watching them do the measurements can enter it, or the guy on the weigh boat can enter it into the app, but it'll keep track of your entire tournament for you and organize it. So
nice.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you kind of make it, that almost was kind of built as a transition from live weigh-in to no more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it'll cover it all, right? Because some want to do a hybrid. When we first started it, it's funny because when you and I talked a little bit before, when we first started this, it was strictly for the CPRV format. And now we have figured out that, people want a hybrid option. They want to be able to weigh those fish, or, in some DNRs, they want you to use that tournament to weed out the smaller fish or weed out the bigger fish. And so, but tournament organizers need that ability to organize, to add, to come up with the totals and to have results immediately. That's the biggest thing I think we see nowadays. You don't want to have to sit in a trailer or someplace for 3 hours and wait for totals. People, especially if you're going to hand out checks, people want to get on the road. It's a Sunday. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. I have to go to work on Monday.
Yeah.
Let's get the results. Let's get the trophies and the checks handed out and get us on our way. So, we average an hour or less, from end of tournament to handing out awards. So it really is an efficient way to manage an entire tournament.
So you're saying that it could go with eTournaments, it'll be faster. We should have bigger payouts because not a lot of overhead, and it should be just easier and no pains.
Yep, 100%. That's the one thing that when we started Colorado Walleye Trail, Colorado Walleye Association, Brad and Mitch were the tournament director and the weighmaster for that. So we had that experience of pulling a trailer. So, that's two trucks, right? Mitch is pulling the boat, Brad's pulling the trailer with the weigh-in stuff. And, you have to get it all set up. You have to, take a spot on wherever you do it, right? On the bank, at a boat ramp, wherever you set up all that stuff. And you have to pay extra money maybe for a permit to use that area or all of those things. None of that applies now. There is no overhead of the storage of the trailer or the equipment. There is no towing an extra vehicle or a trailer there. It is 100%, you and I could run an entire tournament while we did this podcast. We could, and it would be that simple.
That should be one of your next podcasts coming up. You guys got to sit together and do that.
I agree. I think we might, So, you do your fish. You could do it while you and I are having this conversation, and you can approve fish and you can manage the entire tournament, and the tournament could be anywhere in the country. So, we could be running a tournament in Alabama. You and I could be the tournament directors, and we could be approving fish during this podcast while they're doing it. So,
wow.
It really has given fishing and tournament directors the freedom to do a lot of things. You can run tournaments anywhere from wherever home base is, and that allows you to take all of that money from travel, hotels, fuel, and put it right back into the payouts. And so now payouts start to hit 90, 92, 95%.
Wow.
And that's, I'm telling you, we're going to spoil these guys. Probably when you started fishing a long time ago and I started fishing, $1,500 payout for first place, and I was running circles around and cheering, and now we see our tournaments, where we get 20 or 25 boats and we have $5-6 grand for first place.
Yeah.
So that is just a testament to, the affordability and the app. The app gets paid for through a subscription like you would Hulu or Peacock or one of those stations. It's through your phone, right? So it's through the Google Play Store or it's through Apple. So it is the angler's responsibility to do that. Well, that means every dollar that goes into that registration now is fluid and gets put back into trophies or covering the cost of the event for the director or the payouts.
Yep.
And so we don't have to play this game where it's $35 to get in, but really $7 of it goes to pay for the app. And guys, you know how they all are, right? They start to look and do the percentages, they do the math, and they're like, wait a minute, this, why is the payout 82 instead of 87? And we hid the cost of the app in there. So ours is real straightforward, right? This is what you get, fire away. So I think it's good.
What has been the biggest issue for you guys to get really get your leg in the door? You obviously with the Bass coming on with Bass Pro Shops, but what has been is it just the industry in a whole not wanting to do catch, pitch, release, or just because you guys came out a little later than the other ones, you're catching up a little bit, even though you have a superior product? What's kind of been your guys' hang up, really getting out and getting all over the place?
A couple of things. First off, geography, where we live. People don't understand that we do have magnificent walleye fishing out here in the West. From, Montana down to Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado. I mean, we have comparable walleye fishing to anywhere in the state. We don't have the big water necessarily, but we do have some really great walleye fishing. And, the next thing has been just kind of, showing people that the technology is starting to catch up with the rest of the world, right? The technology is starting to catch up to the point where you can trust the fact that you're putting this in your phone and you're releasing that fish and you're not going to lose your entry. And so the hardest sell is to install that confidence. And I think where we are unique from all the other apps is I'm you, right? Like I'm sitting here in my my Mercury or Ranger sweatshirt or whatever and I am a director on the weekend or I'm a tournament angler, but I am one of those two functions on top of being the guy who's going to answer the phone when you call and say, hey, I need some help registering for this tournament or whatever through the eTournament app. So the hardest part is to kind of get that message out there, which, I appreciate you and a lot of guys in the Midwest who are starting to take up our cause. Guys like Keith Gavice has been a big support of ours and a big help. And I really appreciate that from him. And, I think it's important. I think this is the future. And if we don't get on board, I think legislation is going to force us to get on board. And so we want to get ahead of that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I know people want to slow down the buses and keep change from coming, but I kind of feel like change is going to be here no matter what, and it's about time we all start paying attention to it and kind of getting our feet in the water early, get going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I as harsh as it may sound to some, and I know that a lot of people, they don't want DNR involved to that kind of level, but I think the recent cheating scandals have hurt the circuits. I think it's hurt our sport and our industry, and there's always been whispers since the first day I started fishing tournaments about people doing things they shouldn't be doing, and there always will be, no matter what we do. But I think the use of eTournament app is really kind of a big step into getting rid of those sorts of things. I mean, we sit around and we try to cheat. We sit on our app and we come up with scenarios and we cheat. And because that's how you beat it, right? That's how you beat the cheaters, is you become a better cheater yourself. And and I don't mean we do it in real stuff or anything like that. I mean, we create fake events and we sit around and we try to take one to the system. And there's always going to be a certain amount of cheating that is going to be addressed with rules. And I think a good set of rules accompanying a solid app that has as many features as it can to crack down on cheaters, I think is, as close as we're going to get to a foolproof system. And when anglers and all of us who have been doing this a long time look at this, cell phone technology is still very infantile. I mean, I'll bet you anything, you and I back as long as 2010 probably didn't even have a cell phone.
Yep.
I can't tell you what year I got my first cell phone, but now here we are doing a podcast on cell phones. We are, yeah. I mean, it's, you're going out on the Great Lakes. Who would have thought you're in the middle of Lake Michigan or Lake Erie and you're on a phone and you're watching videos, it's, so we are in the infantile part of technology. Starlink is a great example of how things are going to become more like that. And as they do, this is going to get better and better. And so I think it's time we get going on this now. So we all know how to use it and we can continue to push the development of the new features, such as the chat feature, such as the geofence, such as the, leaderboards that connect everybody's web pages, the downloading of the pictures to use in social media posts and on, TV shows and videos. It's all about promotion and using what goes on during the tournament to promote future events, the sport, the products, and that is what we have tried to design in e-tournament fishing as a tool for all of those things.
Wow. It seems wonderful. I've never actually got a chance to use it in a tournament yet because I haven't had one around here that used it yet that I'm aware of. At least I've been a part of. But just from all I read about it and kind of, looking into it online, it just seems like I love that it has the feature of if you can kind of separate the directors from the fishermen, and that information isn't just sitting out there. It's kind of, obviously it's stored with you guys, but the director doesn't have it, and that you have to request to get that stuff is pretty awesome. It kind of gives you a little comfort knowing that on day 2 you're not going to have somebody sitting in your spot when you go from being boat 3 to boat 30, and all of a sudden now my spot has got 2 people in it already.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a little story about that. I'd fished the first tournament. I started to fish tournaments with my dad, and he is not a nautical person. So he has a rough go on boats. And so but he and I had always, we'd fished together since I was a little boy, and so we started to fish these tournaments together. And the very first tournament we entered, or the second tournament we entered, I would say, we were at a smaller reservoir, and we fished a spot by ourselves the first day. So on Saturday we fished by ourselves, came in, and the tournaments at that time were split into 2 one-day events. So you had a check and trophies for Saturday, a check and trophies for Sunday, and then an overall. Yeah, it was crazy. And so on Saturday we came in and we got 4th place, and nobody knew who we were. We were new to the circuit, and they do they hand out the stuff on Saturday, so everybody knew that we got 4th place.
Just put a flag on your target in your back is all they did.
It was huge. It was huge. So I'm in my Ranger Cherokee, my 17-foot aluminum, goes about 32 miles an hour at top speed, and I am I think there were probably 30 boats. I am 26, I think, on day 2, because the order reverses.
Yep.
And I come around. There's a big point that comes out in the middle of this reservoir, and then it kind of loops back towards an inlet. I come around this big point, and we were fishing in the cup of that big point. I come around the big point, and the 24 of the 30 boats were sitting right in our spot. So that was almost the end of my tournament fishing career. I was so upset, and I couldn't believe the sportsmanship, and it was so bad, and it was just terrible. It was awful. So ever since then I learned how to be more discreet, more tight-lipped. You net the fish on the other side of the boat. All of those things, which I had no idea about. I was just out there fishing for walleyes. So, but that has always stuck with me. And now, as we design this app, tailpiping is such a complaint across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, from pro to amateur to, just having fun with your buddies, get out of my spot, is such an issue. And so we said, look, let's do it anonymous. Everybody, if they want to see, right, and directors have the ability to turn the leaderboard on and off. So there doesn't have to be an active leaderboard unless you want it. But if you have an active leaderboard and you allow them to see where they stand, it's anonymous, right? So, everybody can see where they stand. They can see how far they have to go or how far they're ahead. But you don't have to worry about, Jimmy and Billy, who always tailpipes. You don't have to worry about them tailpiping you. So it works out pretty well.
So one other thing, that you guys don't have ads on your app yet. Is there going to be ads on your app? Because, when money comes calling.
Never. I can promise you, for as long as we own this app, there will never be ads. It will never look like a Vegas, slot machine, or, Google AdSense will have nothing to do with the eTournament fishing app. And that is a promise to everybody. It is a hardcore tournament angler director's app. It is made for that. I don't need it to, of course, we would like to make money off of it, but I don't need to make whatever the ads bring. That's not important to me. What's important to me is the relationship, the community, right? I can't look you in the face and you say, man, I love your app, but God, I have to wait for 3 ads for me to enter a fish.
Right.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Maybe you should, that'll just do the naming rights like at every other stadium, eTournaments by Bass Pro Shops or something like that.
Sure, absolutely, right. Well, and that's another feature too, is everybody who uses the app, there is space in the app for you to put your logo, your tournament logo, a sponsor logo, stuff like that. It's not pop-up space. It is space that is in the app that would otherwise be blank. So, once you're a director and you say, hey, I'm going to use this, there are spots for you to put your logos or a collage of your logos in there.
To make it your own.
So, yeah, to make it your own. So we wanted to make sure we could do that. And it's the same way in the profile. Everybody that goes in there has the ability. You don't have to create a major profile, right? But you have the ability to create a profile that shows, your catches, right? The fish you want to put in there. I think there's 6 slots to show the fish that you've caught, or your best catches. There's also several slots for your sponsors. So you have on your Mercury sweatshirt today. Well, you can put your Mercury logo in there, and it's linkable to the Mercury page to go buy a Mercury motor. So we want the sponsors to go on there and see that Matt is showing off the fact that he is proud to be a Mercury team member, and here it is, right? And so, and then also as part of that, we were talking about the co-angler aspect of it. You can go in and see my profile if you and I are going to be angler co-angler, and you can see that I have fished 25 eTournament events over the last 2 years, and where I have finished and how I have done. All of that will be stored under your profile for everyone to see. And as much as that is a cool thing for pros to see their co's, it's bragging rights, right? It's like, hey man, look at this is my track history. Here you go. And there's no way to make it up, right? You can't go in and you can't change it. So if they use the eTournament app, it's going to go under your profile as a finish.
You got to throw some some e-gaming in there and have like a rating, like on Madden when they got ratings, right? So you're like, oh, this guy's rated at 75. Okay, that's not so bad, but this dude's 92. How do I get Jim next week?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, that sounds like one of the ideas that we've had. Is how do you show something like that? So yeah, I agree. I think that'd be awesome, right?
That's cool.
Maybe do a draft, like a draft for like the NFL.
Right. I think it's cool because I think you guys have really taken, like, some of the other ones just kind of came out and that's what they've been. They haven't really changed much. And I feel like you guys are constantly changing every year. Every time there's a concern comes up, you guys address it, change it, move on, and keep making it a better product every day. Because I feel like just like fishing changes and how this is going to change with us from going from live to catch, pitch, release, all that stuff, you guys have to change with it. I feel like you're doing a good job doing that.
Thank you. That is a huge deal to us. And I open that invitation to anybody that uses the app. If you want to call us up and say, hey, we really think this would help. Like, this would be a great feature. And if it makes sense and it makes developmental dollar sense, because, somebody has to pay to put that in. But if all of that makes sense and it's something we can do, we'll be happy to do it. And so, we don't have this ego that says, oh no, we know better, we're going to do it our way. Thanks a lot, Matt, but I don't need your info. We're good, right? No way. I mean, we have been in this game long enough to know all of us have a great idea. All of us, from the shore fishermen, which is what I was for the majority of my life, to the guys who are on the NWT circuit who have been, the legends like Kavais and Parsons and these guys. They have great insight, but so do you, and so do I, and so does the guy who's in his first year out of a kayak. Everybody's got great input. We are willing to listen to any of it, and if it makes sense, sure, let's put it in the app as part of the functionality. It's great stuff.
That's awesome. So I know you probably can't let anything know. Is there more areas where you come into our area? Is there stuff on the Hawaii, you guys in the works of getting new tournaments on your list of tournaments?
Yes. Yep. We are constantly working on it. We will definitely be, in your area soon. Now it's probably a pretty good time. We are going to do a fall tournament called Fall Frenzy. Ooh. And it is going to encompass all of Lake Michigan. It's going to be very similar to the other fall tournaments that are in the area, around that time. But we think it's time Lake Michigan gets its own fall big month-long tournament. So
Ooh.
yeah, we're gonna put all that together. We're coming up with sponsors and partnerships right now, but the tournament itself is going to be set. It's going to be from, and I don't have the exact dates. I believe it's like October 12th through November 22nd or something like that. It's going to be a Saturday to Saturday, and it's going to be your two best fish. And we're going to have a shore kayak float tube division. We're going to have a youth division, and then we're going to have the main division.
That is super. The shore kayak is super cool.
Yeah. So, hey, and hopefully we can find somebody to give us a couple of boats. And, if you're a shore kayak fisherman, you're going to be able to compete in the main tournament, which if we can find the right partnerships and the right sponsors, that may be your ticket from shore to boat. So super excited to bring that to that area. Being a kid whose family is from Michigan and having gone back there a bunch. And, I love fishing it. We fished an NTC Bays to Knock. Brad and Mitch go back every year and fish Bays to Knock in the fall and November. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a great area and I love it. And so I think it's time Lake Michigan had their own.
That would be absolutely awesome. I would, there'd be a lot of people that'd be up for that. I can tell you that. So
I hope so.
That's cool.
I hope so. And it'll be super affordable, right? So this is again another very big bonus of the app is, it's going to be super affordable. It's going to be $35 for the entire, for anybody to enter. So $35 and you could hopefully win some amazing prizes. And we're going to do a big big percentage payback to the top places. I believe we're going to pay down. I think we're going to pay down 8 spots. Total, with hopefully the top two spots being some big grand prize, and make it worth everybody's while, right? So people can compete.
And what a great way to market you guys, to be honest. I mean,
absolutely, right?
You're gonna make all of us that are in the area, we're gonna have to use it, and if we like it or not, I mean, whatever our things going into it gets, all of us are gonna have a chance to use it, basically.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely
pretty cool.
Yep. And that's the idea behind the subscription piece, right? You fish your circuits in your local state and you're going to do the fall event, then you might as well pay for that annual subscription, and that allows you to do it as much as you want. So
right.
The more people in the app, the better.
What you're saying is that all of us local guys now should start getting on our directors to switch over to you guys. So we actually, when we go to do the fall frenzy at the end of the year, if we do the year thing, it'll basically paid for itself by the time we got there.
Absolutely. 100%. Yep. So if everybody starts to transition now and starts to use it, by the time it really catches on, everybody's going to be well aware of it. And, you'll realize that you can fish, let's say you fish 4 months. Well, fish your 4 months, cancel the subscription if that's what you want to do. Or if you want to remain part of the community, if you and I have this relationship and you're like, hey man, I want to come out to Colorado and fish, that is your way to communicate with each other is, because it can be a direct chat feature. It doesn't have to be a chat room. It can be you and I, you friend people like you do on Facebook, or you follow people. And, you and I can have this entire relationship through the app. And it could be that way for anybody. Hey, you could throw out there, I'm coming to, Door County. I want the 3 best lakes to fish. And I know Green Bay, give me three other ones. People can go on there and give you the 3 best places to fish. Or I'm looking for a guide. Hey, I need a guide. Somebody give me some names, because I'll be out there for, for the first week of October to get ready for the frenzy. So yeah, great stuff.
That's cool. Okay. So now I want to switch a little bit, to a good reason why I wanted to have you on today is you're not from the Midwest. I mean, I don't really count that the Midwest, count that kind of the West or Central, but you're in Colorado. You guys catch walleyes. Yep. Wyoming catch walleyes. Tell me about what it's like out there fishing.
We've had podcasts on All Eyes on Fishing about this, and you and I could start a whole nother hour-long podcast on this. It's completely different, and I have a unique perspective because my family being from Michigan, I used to hear about how great Michigan was and how great the Great Lakes are and everything else. My grandfather would come to visit and he'd say, where's your lake? And I would take him down to the reservoir, and he goes, this ain't a lake. And I said, well, thanks, Grandpa. I appreciate that. But but it is different, right? And I don't know what all the factors are. I think they're always open for debate, and it's some great conversations. But I think we have different water. I think the makeup of the water is different. I can tell you from having fished, Lake Michigan and some of the inland lakes. My aunt lives off of Torch Lake in Michigan, or Clam Lake. I can see that it's different. I can see that the makeup's different. I can see the way the water look is different, and I think that's a factor, right? I think that's a factor in all sorts of things. But we have a very unique way of fishing here, with it being mostly reservoir systems. We get a lot of water fluctuation, and where you fish one day could be completely different the next. And usually it doesn't drop that fast, but it's not unusual to see it drop 3 inches overnight. And you want to talk about screw up your bite. I mean, I can tell you, I've had many bites where I'm leading day one and I go into day two and can't catch fish because the lake dropped 3 inches overnight, and my 10-foot range where the fish were sitting is now 9'6", and the fish aren't too interested in being on that structure anymore for some reason. So we get a lot of wind, we get a lot of big thunderstorms, and a big thunderstorm and a lot of wind overnight can completely change a bite here. And I'm sure it can a lot of places. I know the Great Lakes have currents, and I know you guys get those big storms that push, and fishing the wind side is different for you. I can fish the wind side because I don't have to go 180 miles to get to the other side to fish the wind, right? but but it is important to watch, and the fish don't always migrate like they do on the big lakes. They, a lot of times they'll get stuck on structure because we have very sharp, jagged structure. We don't have a whole lot of sand. We don't have a whole lot of mud. We don't have these big reefs where fish will get hung up on these reefs, and that's where they'll sit because the water level doesn't fluctuate. We have rock points. We have rock humps. One day you're fishing a rock hump, the next month it's taking your lower unit out. So, so you have to be so careful. And, but it really changes you, right? Shad is mostly the forage out in the West, and shad act differently than alewives or rainbow smelt or, other types of bait fish that, you find common in the Midwest. We don't have gobies. So our fish aren't feeding on gobies, but they do feed on crayfish like crazy. So, so what we find is fishing out here is a lot like bass fishing for walleye. And so, the old adages of fishing in, walleyes in the summertime like the cooler water, and they don't like the light. They got those big eyes, they don't like the light. Well, we have found that is completely opposite here. I can catch 10-pound walleyes in, 4 or 5 inches of water, casting crankbaits or swim baits up into 4 inches of water, with it being 100 degrees out and, clear blue skies. And
do you think because the water temperature, is it colder out there and they want to warm up more? Want to really get up there?
No, you know what? I actually think you guys are colder, which is interesting to me because, I can remember fishing the NTC up in Bays de Noc, about, I don't know, it's probably 9-10 years ago now, but I can remember being up there. We left Colorado and our water temperature was probably like 54. We get up to Bays de Noc. It was the day before the season opened, and your water temperature was 38. But your fish are more active at 38 than our fish at 38. So it's really an interesting thing, and that's an interesting topic. That our water temperatures will hover in midsummer between the upper 70s to a low 80, and that's of course surface temperature. And most of our reservoirs are fairly deep. We don't have a lot of bowl prairie type reservoirs, but most of them are fairly deep. You'll go from reservoirs that are commonly 40 to 50 degrees to 40 or 50 feet to some of our reservoirs are 90 to 100.
Wow.
And so the water can be cooler, but turnover, right? Like we don't see a lot of turnover. I know you guys have a lot of turnover in a lot of your lakes, but our reservoirs drop because throughout the summer it's irrigation, so we don't get the turnover that you get. We may get some, but we don't get as much. So yeah, so it's interesting. So going back and doing the tournaments back in the Midwest, you're adjusting to how your fish migrate and those things way different than here, way different.
Wow.
So it's really it's great. I mean, we can fish, weeds. We can fish. Our walleyes can be up in, like I said, 2, 3, 4 feet of water. Brad Mitch, we fished a tournament in Wyoming at a lake called Glendo. Brad and Mitch literally had the bottom. Brad had a tracker at the time, an aluminum tracker. His bottom of his boat was, if it was an inch or two above the bottom, that probably would have been the most. And they're cast into pockets of submerged brush with 40 pound, 60 pound test line, and pulling out 6, 7, 8, 9 pounders, leading day one with, gosh, I can't remember, it was 20 plus pounds of fish, or second place, I think they were. And off, fishing in 6 inches, 7 inches of water, a foot max, which people would never think of. I mean, I didn't even think of it. I pre-fished for us all, told them the area to fish. I fished in the area I told them to fish, which was probably 4 or 5 feet of water. And those goofs coast in further and end up leading second place in the whole tournament, And I'm sitting there at 18th or 20, and these two are in second place, fishing where I told them to fish, but another 20 yards further into shore, and just killing it. So, wild.
Just, blows my mind. We're just learning so much more about walleye fishing. I don't know if it's just that technology is helping us, or if maybe as walleye fishermen we're getting smarter. Maybe we weren't necessarily smart 30, 40 years ago. We're getting better now of just trying all the new things. I know a ton of guys. I look for bass stuff all the time to bring into my world, if it's drop shotting, or if it's whatever new crankbaits are out there, or all kinds of fun stuff, right? And it's funny that it seems like we're expanding the walleye world of what we know of them every year by so much. And obviously LiveScope has helped a ton with, you don't have to be banging on the bottom anymore. You can be up in the water column and fish.
Yep. Well, and that's the interesting thing about LiveScope too, I think, is, LiveScope, of course, we have it as well. And LiveScope is great when you're fishing those rock points in these reservoirs that come out. It's really good to see the shad balls and all of those things. But, when you get them in that shallow, LiveScope's not showing you a thing. I mean, and so I know there is a big debate about LiveScope out there, and guys are, especially in the bass world, they're talking about, outlawing them in certain tournaments and things like that. But I have to tell you, there is a certain amount of talent, and this. I mean, you're a talented fisherman. There's a certain amount of talent and gut and going out there and putting in the time that goes into all of this. And you can LiveScope it to death, but, unless you understand what's going on at your lake in your area and you put in the time, LiveScope's not going to do it all for you.
Right. I mean, I say it over and over again. I haven't been LiveScope for a couple of years, and people talk of like what John and Wynn are doing with their LiveScope.
Right.
And there's only, in my opinion, and fishing the same areas and the same kind of stuff, is that there's only probably 2 or 3 guys that can actually do that anyways. That they are just so much farther ahead of us. It's they're Tom Brady, and the rest of us are Eli Manning. We might sneak out one here and there, but those guys are just so far ahead of what the rest of the average person is doing. It's unable to compare to what, say, Tom bought one in the local league and now he's going to dominate.
Right.
Probably not.
Right. Right.
Because even in the local leagues that I fish, everybody has LiveScopes, but trolling is still a really big thing. Trolling still wins a lot of money in those smaller, local kind of events and stuff. So to me, I don't really see that. Maybe for the top end guys, maybe there's a difference for them up there, but for the average fisherman that fishes 10, 15 tournaments, derbies a year, I don't know if it's, eventually everybody's going to catch up and everybody's going to figure it out, but I think we're still in the infancy yet, that it's not, everybody hasn't quite put their fingers on it, and especially old guys like us that haven't played video games in a decade. It's tough when you have the young kids that are 25 coming out and they play video games and all that kind of stuff, and they're just picking up on it so fast, so we're just trying to make it work yet.
I agree 100%. I mean, here's the craziest part for me, so at this Lake Lindo where we fish, I fish with this father son combo, Steve and Brooks Tizer, and great guys. They live up there, they understand it all, great fishermen, right? But they are like hardcore in the weeds, casting shallow, that kind of thing. And I prefer sometimes to troll a little, and I'll troll, probably pretty different than the typical, crankbaits, planer boards, that type of thing. Sometimes at that lake, with the way the weeds grow up to the surface, I'll pull spinners on inline weights behind, 3 feet behind the board, right? I mean, you can almost see it flopping around back there, and hammer those walleyes coming up through the weeds to do that. And he makes fun of me. He goes, "Why don't you just sit there and cast instead of troll it?" And I said, "Because I'm putting in front of 1,000 fish, and you're putting in front of the same 2 for 3 hours." So we banter back and forth. But the interesting piece to that is that is something where live scope can be crucial, right? You're casting an area, it's 4 or 5 feet deep, but you're only fishing the first 6 or 7 inches of the water column. Yeah, that's awesome, right? But me pulling through, I'm still fishing the same 5 or 6 inches of the water column, but I'm moving, and live scope isn't going to show me too much. Maybe a fish going off to the side or something, but for the most part, I'm still fishing that instinct. I'm still fishing what I see on my 2D sonar. I'm still fishing on what I know is the pattern at that lake that time of year, and from experience, right? Having fished it for the last 20 years, multiple times, I know where these fish are going to be about, And so I agree with you. I mean, it's like Hoyer's amazing, right? I've watched all the Next Bite shows like everyone else, and yeah, super job, right? But if that's not working out for you, there's all that other side of walleye fishing.
Right. I mean, that's what's scary, I think, is some people are kind of, I don't know if they're kind of pushed off by what's happening now, but like if you go into that, there is a learning curve. And
oh yeah.
I spent the last year and a half in that learning curve, and it was tough to stick. Once you decide to go that direction, you're in it. You haven't probably pre-fished anything to troll on. You may have some memories you can go troll and stuff, but there was one series, a local series, that we decided not to do any trolling whatsoever. It was going to be live scope only for the year. And we cashed a couple checks. It wasn't great. They weren't high finishes, but we proved that we could catch the fish. We just didn't our pre-fishing was wrong. We're kind of pre-fishing more for like a trolling kind of a weird kind of bite where you have to kind of pre-fish a little differently, I think, than what we were doing. We didn't have enough fish set up to catch enough fish, I guess is a weird way to say it. But even that, it was hard because you wouldn't go and, golly, it's, yeah, we had good finishes where we caught 6 fish. And it's like, 6 fish, man. That's a long 8-hour day or 6-hour day.
but pretty proud of yourself,
yeah,
right? Pretty
for
proud
sure,
of yourself,
for sure.
Because I got them on live scope just like I said I was going to.
Yeah, I started doing. I really got back into slip bobber and power coker and whatever.
Me too.
And
yeah, me too.
And I'm a big river fisherman, so I just had this idea that, hey, why can't I bobber fish in the river? Why can't I take this and do exactly what they do, what a minnow does when it bangs off a rock and slides down? So I started, practicing with this and throwing this out, and it all came together one tournament, and I saw a fish and I couldn't get, so he wouldn't react to me casting to him or jigging through him. So I did my little bobber thing. It went right over, hit a rock, hit him, and all of a sudden, boom, we were hooked up. And I'm like, man, that is super cool when it does work. It is super cool when it finally, you finally make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, part of my, I grew up bobber fishing more like the old school red and white bobber. You clip it on your line. You not a slip bobber, rig guy. And, I had to learn how to slip bobber. But this same Lake Glendo, oh, it was tough. I'm telling you, it was a mess. But this same Lake Glendo is very a slip bobber lake early. And so you get gigantic minnows, and you put those bad boys out there. And I'm not kidding you. I haven't fished the tournament in a couple of years because I've been so busy, with eTournament and our own series. But, our first 3 fish were over 10 pounds.
Wow.
And, it took 4 hours. But when you catch on a 1/32 ounce jig is your hook, and you pull up that monster and you see that 1/32 ounce hook halfway down his mouth. I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? So, but that is interesting that you say that, because the last tournament I fished there, It was bad weather, overcast, lots of wind, and that is a shallow lake, and I know this. Every time I go to fish the deeper fish that you mark, I get hosed every time, every time, right? And so day one, I pre-fish, rain, wind, lots of wind. Wyoming's got a ton of wind. Lots of wind, hard to keep the boat on structure, casting towards rocky shorelines. That's how everybody's catching them, blah, 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 blah. And that's another thing, which you probably are well aware of. I don't listen to what everybody else is doing. I don't care. Right? I mean, my biggest advice, I don't care. You could be, like I said, if it were, the NWT field and everybody's got all their marked up boats out there, I could care less because it just messes me up. But but you do team up, right? And I team up with the Tizers, and so you team up, and that's how they're catching them, and this is what they do. I knew better. I just knew that this just wasn't the way to fish that lake. Saturday, crappie, 3 fish, not anywhere in the hunt. Bad weather. Sunday is going to be less windy, but still overcast and rainy. Tough day, right? Same deal. I got the slip bobbers out, big sucker minnows, can't find chubs. We're big on Wyoming's big on not bringing bait into the state, so you have to buy it there. Suckers are prevalent, chubs are not. So got no shiners. Nobody has shiners. You're not allowed to have those. So I've got got this big suckers. Well, we all know suckers are the laziest live bait on the planet, right? You put a sucker underneath a slip bobber, and that bobber is going to sit there all day because the sucker is going to sit there all day until it gets eaten. So we're sitting there, and by 10:30, nothing, right? And I've had it, right? Like you and I were talking about. I'm looking at it like, wow, it's a 3-hour drive to get home. I think we might want to get on it. And so I said, screw it. We're going to fish this bay we're in, and we're going to go up shallow, and I'm going to do what we always do here. I'm going to cast crankbaits up shallow. And you know what? I said, let those slip bobbers just hang off the back. We'll just pull them behind us and see if anything gets interested. It was 7 minutes, and I'm talking bass fishing for walleyes, right? So you're casting up into brush, you're ripping crankbaits through, and you've got the trolling motor set on about 50% because you're rolling. Yep. And you're going to go back and forth, and you're smoking up the shoreline. And we're going, and it was probably the first 7 minutes, and one of those slip bobbers disappears on a 8-inch sucker, gone. And then the second one, gone. And all of a sudden the rods are taking off, because they're not in rod holders. They're just sitting over the back deck because we're casting. The rods are going heading for the lake. My partner's grabbing both of them. He's yelling at me to come back and help him. I'm trying to navigate because we're hauling butt through the shallows. Stick it on anchor, run back there, pull up 2 fish, both of them over 5 pounds. Wow. I went through a school of 5-pounders. They both hit the minnows. Well, I had it set at about 4 feet, right? I think because we were fishing about that depth, or that's where the boat was about 4 to 6 feet. And so, pulling it behind the boat that fast, the minnow had to be a foot or 2 below the surface, right? Well, here we go. The whole day was that way. I bet we caught, 7 or 8 nice fish casting up into a few feet of water or a few inches of water some of the times. But those slip bobbers, to the point where, like you said, right? Like you crack open the bail, and then you get all situated. You put your casting rod down, and then you turn the boat around, and then we started to follow him like Jaws. Remember when the big yellow, the big yellow things popped up on Jaws, and he was following them? That's what we did. And we would follow them all the way out to. Here's the interesting piece: they would hit in 4 or 5 feet of water, those minnows on those slip bobbers, and immediately head out 20, 25 feet of water to eat them. It was right on the bottom. You could see your line go, so we'd get right over the top of them. You would reel down, and I bet we were, and it's not a great hookup rate, which sucks, right? Especially if you're in a tournament. But I bet we were about 50-50 on hookup. And but man, when you did, it was a monster. And I say monster, I say 5 pounds or bigger, right? Like that's a good fish. Yeah. And you're bringing them up from, like I said, you look at the graph, it's 25, 30 feet of water. They were down there letting that minnow go down the gullet, and off we went. So yeah, it's crazy, right? But that's the difference. I don't know. You could tell me as part of my education. Is that something that you would find, fishing the shallows of Green Bay or one of your inland lakes?
Not taking a go. I could see a couple places that I've fished that has deeper water close to that, stuff like that, but not like, we do good doing slip bobbers on a lot of lakes and big red-tailed chubs and stuff like that, but not taking them and grabbing them going down deep water. That's kind of different for me. That's kind of scary. That's kind of weird stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the minnows. I'm actually out of Oshkosh, so I'm out of Winnebago. So we catch a lot of fish slip bobber and a lot of smaller fish. It's not a very big lake. A 25 would be considered a real nice kicker fish out there. Green Bay, I haven't done a lot. I haven't really had to do a lot of slip bobber fishing and haven't really tried it much up there. The random stuff, the normal stuff up there. But like the reservoirs here, like we have Petenwell is close to us, and that is an old a river that's been dammed up. So they tend to do a little more there. I would think that you can get them, especially the winter time, you get them way out in the deep water. But that is a weird. I mean, we don't do anything shallow like that. I mean, I think the shallowest fish I've caught as a walleye was maybe a couple feet, but that's in the spring when they're kind of getting up in the shallows and really feeding at night. But yeah, casting with big heavy gear like that's definitely not something I've seen anybody do.
Yeah, and the crankbait's a 5 or a 7, right? So good sized crankbaits, right? And it's wild because you would think you're ripping through this. The weeds haven't started to grow up yet. You don't have that. People call it all different types of names for the different types of weeds there are, but it's that viney weed that comes up with the leaves off it, and that hasn't started to grow yet. But all the dead ones are on the bottom, and they're black, and but you still have the brush, you still have the bushes, you still have the stuff that's in the water, and because by over the winter the lakes come back up, and so you're fishing all of that shoreline that was dry 4 months ago, and you go back out there and get your lures back, but it is just completely different. It is something where I was shocked to catch walleyes like that. I was shocked to catch the number of walleyes we caught like that. And what another lesson, right? I mean, I've been fishing up there for 20 plus years, and yet another lesson on how to catch fish on a lake that I thought I had figured out 15 years ago. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah. So a lot of fun, right? And that's what makes walleye fishing great, right? That's what attracts us all, or it should anyways, is, what a challenging species, what a challenging, all you have to do is tweak a little piece, and, it's a totally different sport. Your sport is different than mine. As much as we like to think, we're these great walleye fishermen, I send you 100 miles to the left and all of a sudden you're terrible.
Right. For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's the passion piece for us. And I probably for you guys too is, and the weather, and then you factor in the weather and you factor in pressure. Our lakes are small and busy, and, you're dodging wake boats and jet skis and, oh gosh, and just awful. We don't have zebra mussels, knock on wood, although they're fanatical about it. We don't have them. But our water's still fairly clear. It's got a green tint to it, which that might be a factor.
The ironic part about zebra mussels, and so I got in a conversation with this with the Iowa fish guy, and they actually, they're kind of helping the back end. Like, like Mille Lacs had an issue with kind of getting dirty water. They got zebra mussels. Now it's kind of cleaning up. And here on the Winnebago chain, the same thing is actually happening where zebra mussels are in here now. And the lake, which was normally a coffee stained lake, not quite that, but it was very, very stained lake, is now clearing up, where when I was a kid, you couldn't see down 4 feet. And now there's times in the summertime where I'll roll up on a reef that's 12 feet and I'm looking at the bottom. It's like, well, I mean, they're not a great thing, but they are cleaning the lakes up. So I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for that, but it's kind of like a weird chess game we're playing right now.
Well, so think about this, right? Think about me being a West kid, where, like I said, one day you're fishing on a hump, and the next day it's eating your prop, right? Or a week later.
Yeah.
Imagine going back and seeing that crystal clear water on the Great Lakes, and you're going 55 because our boats here, when we go down to your elevation, because our boats at our elevation slow down.
Oh, okay.
So my I have a Ranger 620. I've got the Gen 1 Evinrude on it, which I love. I don't care what anybody says. I love the damn thing. And, and I run the hell out of it and always have. But, that boat here runs 50, 53 maybe on a good day. I can get 65, 66 in Michigan on that same boat, right? Same boat, same motor. That's the difference. Yeah, right?
Crazy.
I mean, that's the air. It's just the being able for that motor to breathe. They can't breathe here. But imagine going that fast when you don't go that fast here. And you look down and I can count the pebbles as they pass by because your water is so clear. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to die. What a way to, it's what a transition. So, every time you do that, just think there's a Colorado kid out there who, if you see the bottom that clear in Colorado, you're going to be paying some money.
That's one of those things here. If you're going over, just keep going, keep her on plane till you get out of there. Turn off of there. Don't slow down.
That's funny because that's what the guy at the bait store said in Bays to Knock. He's like, just keep going, man. Just keep going.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. We see like some of the launches here for tournament days, and it'll be a summertime, and I'll look at my graph, and I'm doing a big out around the reefs, and then this tournament I'm getting closer, and then the big money ones I'm just buzzing the shorely around, and just the more money, the more risk you're willing to take, I guess. So
absolutely.
what are a couple lakes out there that are, if a guys from the area wanted to go out there, what kind of lakes would you send them to in Colorado and Wyoming?
Well, I would go for Colorado. Pueblo Reservoir is amazing, right? Pueblo Reservoir is probably one of our biggest fisheries. It is one of the, a lot of our lakes are pipe fed. So they will be diverted from a river somewhere in the area, and they are pipe fed over a mountain or, through something. It'll be pipe fed. The Pueblo Reservoir is one of the few that is dammed up. It's the Arkansas River. So it is a good, constant flow, which, we don't get to river fish like you guys do. That's an unknown deal out here. And if you do, it's with a fly rod and looking for trout, which none of us like to talk about because we're walleye guys. But, that's probably one of our greatest fisheries. And it's got some monsters, and it's a deep lake and stays fairly full most of the time. So that's a good one. Horsetooth Reservoir in Fort Collins is amazing. Tough to fish, lots of bait, but it's got some just absolute monsters in it. And, and then you go out, if you go out east, Lake McConaughey, Nebraska is good. Sterling Reservoir, when it's not drained down and has a big fish kill, can be amazing. And then you go up into Wyoming, and Wyoming's full of big reservoirs people don't know about. It's kind of like Montana. Like you come across and you say, hey, what's this? It blows me away all the time. But Glendale Reservoir is obviously world-class, and it is starting to, it has Lake Erie type weights when you come in for tournaments. Boysen Reservoir is another one that's a little closer to the middle of Wyoming, but what a great fishery. Big lake, or big reservoir for us. Serious weather. You got to watch it out there. I mean, just storm. Oh, I have some videos of just, I mean, not only am I praying, I'm praying to anybody that'll listen, but I am thanking Ranger boats with every wave because it is just nuts, right? And then Pathfinder Reservoir is also in that same chain. And Pathfinder is another big lake. Again, prairie lake, huge wind can come up, but two river arms that come in that just create this unbelievable fishery. So a little bit tougher to fish, a lot of small fish, but when you find the big ones, stand by because you can put in a boat full of big ones in a hurry. So those are good places to start. And then, like I said, Colorado probably has the smallest of them all because we just don't do a good job of thinking much past the next month in this state. But the other ones, solid.
So, okay, I'm going to get you out of here. One last question, because I think we could go on for another 8 hours here. But,
oh, yeah, for sure.
So if you only get to go fishing one more time, where are you going, what you taking, what you doing?
One more time. I'm going to Glendale. I'm taking my favorite spinning rod. I'm doing and I'm taking my best flicker shad, probably size 5. And I am fishing starting in probably 3 feet or less, and I'm fishing at the heaviest cover I can find for those big eyes. probably beginning of June, and we're rocking down the shoreline and covering as much water as possible.
Nice. That sounds fun. Well, thanks for being on today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Great to meet you. And, this is good stuff. I'm sure we'll see each other more in the future.
So if you're looking to be on an episode of Walleye Chronicles, hit me up on my socials. That's Smile and Fish on the TikTok, or Matt Stone, anything else. And if you're looking to have a tournament, look at these guys. Look at eTournaments for your next tournament. And remember, there's 2 things you can do every day to make somebody have somebody, 2 things you do every day to give somebody a good day. 1, give them a smile, and 2, take them fishing. Thanks a lot.